Come on in, come on in. I'm not going to try and make you sit in the front row this time, because this time everybody got my message and came to the front row, which I love. But there's plenty of room up here on the side as well if people want to find their way in. So great to have so many people here. This is so fun. So we did this earlier, but since there are even more people here now, how many people are students here at NYSID? Raise your, look at that, wow, wow. And some former students too, did I hear? Oh, quite a few former students, wow, okay. Well, thanks so much for coming. Okay, and then just regular people, just non-students? Let's see a show of those hands. Okay, okay, good stuff, good stuff. Come on in. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room on the side here. Farrah, Burns, come on. We can find seat for you up here. Anywhere you find a seat. Thanks so much for coming. Oh my gosh, no, so great to have you. So great to have you. Oh, I told you. I mean, people are coming from far and wide, okay? I mean, you know. It's a big night here at NYSID. It's a big night at NYSID, and it's all because of you. So
it's because you invited me. Dennis.
Well, I'm so thrilled that you said yes. So I'm really grateful. All right, let's get this started, shall we? So, hi there. I'm Dennis Scully. I'm the host of the Business of Home podcast, and I'm also, as I hope you all know by now, the curator of the Dialogues on Design series here at the New York School of Interior Design. And I want to thank you for showing up in such great numbers and for supporting our scholarship fund, which is what this event is really all about. In addition to your kind support, all of the people that are shown here have very generously made donations to the school through subscriptions and sponsorships, which is what these conversations are all about. I hope that you will join me in a round of applause for all of the generous donors who have made this possible. Sadly, this is our last dialogues of the season, so I mentioned to Athena that I might get a little emotional tonight, but it's an extra special one, and I'm thrilled to end on such a high note with so many of you here, because Athena, in many ways, as we'll get to over the course of this conversation, represents so much of what I hope to share with all of you through these conversations, which is in part the endless possibilities that await all of you, particularly the students, but even those of us who are still trying to find themselves later in life. Athena, as we'll discuss, represents that unlimited possibility, and I hope, as you hear from her tonight, you'll walk away feeling inspired and uplifted, as I think you will. So I'm going to jump into just a little bit of an embarrassing introduction for you, and then we'll jump in. So, as I say, tonight we have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Athena Calderone, who is a creative visionary whose work seamlessly blends food and design and style. Internationally recognized as a trusted authority in modern living, Athena is celebrated for her impeccable eye and her refined aesthetic. As the founder of the multimedia brand EyeSwoon and her integrative design studio, Studio Athena Calderone, she's built a platform that inspires and educates, offering thoughtful insights on everything from interior design to culinary creativity. Her ability to craft inspiring environments that evoke emotion while making style and taste feel accessible has earned her a devoted following and the attention of luxury brands around the world. Athena's books, Cook Beautiful and Live Beautiful, have cemented her place as a leading voice in lifestyle curation, and she really is all of that, as you will discover. So will you please join me in welcoming Athena Calderone.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be here, guys. Thank you.
Well, and at one point, design school, a little bit, dipped your toe in. Not here, but elsewhere, yes?
I did a lot of schools. I initially was a dancer. So in college, I was a dancer, and then I jumped around. I thought I wanted to do fashion. I went to FIT, and then I did a community college, and then I studied dance again, and then eventually ended up taking some classes at Parsons, but that's like in my 30s. I think something that I think is really important, which I guess you loosely touched upon, is that I really didn't find myself and my career and my creative path until I was in my 30s, and I really struggled with that, with struggling with what I wanted to say, what I was meant to offer the world, what I was good at. And, you know, it took me a really long time to embrace myself and embrace that I had like a lot of different talents, not a lot of different talents, sorry, a lot of different interests. That's so ego-y.
So talented in so many ways.
So
I mean, we could go on.
Well, sorry, that was like really bad. But anyway, I had a lot of different interests, and I was ashamed of that for a really long time because I would like ping pong around a lot of different creative endeavors. And I always felt a little bit like I started them and I didn't finish them. And I thought that I was on a path to nowhere, to be perfectly frank.
So is that what made you feel ashamed? That you felt that you had so many different interests and you didn't see them through?
It was not seeing them through.
Okay.
Like I've always, you know, I would probably be diagnosed with ADHD now, but I never was in school. But like I had a really hard time in school. I had a really hard time focusing. I wasn't a good student. I would start things and not follow through. I would start cleaning my room and then find, you know, a note from my best friend and then like get distracted. And then, you know, I just wasn't, I thought that I was lazy or not unfocused or just not, didn't have a path. Yet.
Until what happened?
So when I moved to Manhattan in 1995, I turned 50 this year. I moved to New York in the late 90s. I'm proud of my age.
You all look as good when that time comes.
So I moved to New York in 95. I was studying at FIT. I was bartending at the Tunnel in the Limelight, and I was doing a little bit of modeling.
Casts you back to those memories, right? Yeah.
Yeah, are you guys there?
Good times. Sorry.
I was studying acting, method acting, which was amazing, and I really thought that that's what I wanted to do.
Yes.
Did you not know this about me?
Oh, well, I mean, I remember the acting. I forgot the whole method, but I mean, tell me more.
I loved it, but it was like really intense and really emotional. You're like churning up all of your stuff and then using it for your art, and then like, what do you do with it all, you know?
Yes.
So anyway, that was like a little tumultuous for me, but I also really loved it. And I fell in love and I got married and I had a baby at 26. And while that's not super young, it's kind of young for New York City, and none of my friends and nobody in my orbit really had a child at that time. So I was really immersed in my home. And home, as we all know, is extremely important. And I made my home my source of creative expression because I needed to find passion and I needed to find purpose, and I was alone a lot, and my husband is a DJ and he was on the road a lot, and you know, I used what I had, and I had my home and I had my kitchen, and I've always been creative and I wanted to find a way to express myself, and cooking really became the conduit that allowed me to kind of riff and trust and take risks. And simultaneously around that same time, my husband was on the road a lot and I was traveling with him. And I didn't grow up around money or culture or education, and I never went to museums, and I didn't try different flavors and foods. So when I would travel with my husband, I had this like wide-eyed curiosity of everything that I saw. I just wanted to absorb and understand. And it was, you know, the textures and patinas of Morocco, and it was, you know, the flavors in Greece and fish that I'd never eaten before, that like all of a sudden I was enticed to try. Like, I really grew up quite sheltered. And all of a sudden there was just like food and flavor and community and design and culture and art, and I was just flooded with so much newness and so much inspiration that after those travels I would come home and I would just start to, like, you know, bring home little bits. You know, I started to realize the importance of objects and travel and collecting, and how you bring these pieces into your home and they hold a story and they kind of tell your story, you know, and we all know that, you know, you walk into a space and you don't really know why you feel the way you feel, but suddenly you're calm, or you're excited, or you're engaged, or you're curious. And I just started to realize that that's what home did. It really built this beautiful legacy of everywhere you've been. And I really began to realize the power of art and design and home. And gathering, you know, because I was alone a lot. I would lure my 20-something-year-old friends that were so focused on career into my home around my table, and I would set a mood and, you know, put a playlist on and set the candles a certain way. And I just suddenly began to realize the importance of home. So that's how I initially started.
Right, right. And here is former home.
Former home.
This was the home that you're talking about, though, setting up and...
No, this was like number 10. And it's something, my husband and I ended up investing in, you know, in our apartment. I would say real estate, but it was just investing in our apartment. But we bought in Dumbo in the 90s, and it was just ripe for growth, and it wasn't yet gentrified. And so actually, the way design really kind of got to my heart was through a really dear friend of mine. His name is John Rollins. Right. He's an incredible interior designer, and he would help me. I'm very envious of all of you because you have the technical skills that you went to school for that I don't embody, but John did. And actually, he doesn't even have the skills you guys have. He loves to sketch by hand. So he was my friend from the nightclub, and, you know, he would come to my house and we would just like talk about design and sketch things. And every one of those 9 apartments before this one, he helped me with. And
those were the prototypes that led to this. Yeah.
He was the one that encouraged me to kind of explore design further, because he's like, you have an eye for this. Like, this is what I do. This is what I love. He's like an encyclopedia of design. His mind fascinates me, and I would learn so much from him. And I think that, like, as we talk, you'll probably hear me say this again and again. I think that because I almost have a little bit of a wound surrounding education and never graduating from a program and from getting a college degree, self-education has become this voracious passion of mine, where anything that I do, whether it's to create a recipe or, you know, design a product or design a space, I dive into it with this void. You know, there's a little bit of unknown, and I really get excited about doing a deep dive and, you know, really understanding. I mean, if I didn't go to school like all of you guys did, and I'm gonna create a rug collection surrounding Art Deco, like, I'm gonna throw myself into Art Deco, and I'm gonna understand every one of the key players, every one of the designers, every one of the architect, because I think I come from this place of not being educated, that I feel like I have to self-educate, and I have to do it to the point where I feel so confident that I can speak and express and design from a place of confidence rather than that void. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes a lot of sense, right, people? I mean, and again, you hear she envies you your education. So
I do.
Stick with it, kids, okay? But you didn't let that hold you back.
No, I didn't. I did for a while, and I think that I realized that all of this like creative schizophrenia that I had, jumping around to a lot of different creative pathways, that it was all accumulating somehow. That the food and the travel and the entertaining and that the interest in design, that they were all kind of making up who I was meant to be. And I think when I stopped beating myself up about being more than one thing and instead embraced those varied parts of myself. I mean, look, I'm going to be completely frank. Like, I still struggle with it. I still struggle with the fact that I can't walk into a room and say, like, hi, I'm Athena Calderone, and I'm a interior designer, or I'm a cook, or I'm a chef, or, you know, I'm a product designer. Like, every time, still to this day, somebody asks me, what do you do? I panic a little bit because I don't have the answer. And I mean, I do have the answer, but I don't have like the sound bite.
Yeah.
And maybe that's okay. And maybe like being vulnerable and being a little insecure is what like keeps me driven. I don't know.
Well, and it seems as if it keeps you trying new things, right? And as you say, you do such a deep dive, and and you study so deeply whatever it is you put your mind to, that you become pretty expert in whatever it is, and we'll talk about that later with the furniture collections and other things. But tell us a little bit of when people started to recognize you in some way. I remember there was early Tumblr back in the day, if I recall, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
right, and EyeSwoon began there, but.
EyeSwoon really was a big moment for me because it was, I didn't know, I started a Tumblr page. And it was just like, I was filled with so much inspiration from designing. We had bought a home in Amagansett, and I had just designed the home. And I had also it was the first home that I'd ever like hosted people in, and I would bring them into my home and, you know, bake for them and cook for them and host dinner parties. And I just felt I was like flooded with so much newness and so much inspiration that I also, the one thing that I was good at in school was writing. So also I'm horrible at grammar, and like so it would be this thing that like—
The audience can relate, apparently, yeah.
I love storytelling, whether it's visual storytelling or through words. I love to kind of create a narrative. So for me, I was just filled again with so much that I wanted to share it. So I didn't know if anyone was going to read it, and I didn't know, you know, if it ever was going to go anywhere. But it just, again, in a similar way that food and designing my homes gave me passion and purpose, there was so much excitement surrounding this thing. And, you know, it was, in a way, that creating that site and picking up a camera for the first time and styling, you know, a vignette or food or a moment in my home, seeing like through the lens. Like, I think a lot of what I'm known for and a lot of what I do is through Instagram and through how you experience a moment, whether that's like food or design. So I feel like I learned so much through a camera lens. And it was it was just me on a ladder with a whisk and a camera, and like I'd never picked up a camera before, and like it was a very exciting time, but I had no idea what I was doing. And like all the images were blurry and oversaturated, and like, you know, you could even like see the evolution of like my taste level, like, you know, over the years. And I feel like that honed my eye.
Well, and that's what so many people are curious about with you, is what did educate your eye? What did lead to this sophisticated vision that you have today?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I can say that when I first started, again, I can't express enough, I knew nothing, but I was a little bit fearlessness in asking for help. I would go, and it started a little bit more in food. I feel like it's evolved now more into design. But I would just reach out to people on Instagram or reach out to a friend of a friend that was a photographer. And I would say, like, can you teach me how to shoot on manual? Or can you, teach me Photoshop so I can learn how to edit my photos? Or like, hey, you have a really big platform. Like, will you like cook with me? Or I would go to like Jean-Georges. I mean, I really, I mean, who does that?
Who does that?
This girl from Long Island that's just like, hi, would you like, I have this site and, would you cook something in the kitchen with me? And like, people said yes. And I just went with it. And I was terrified. I was so nervous, especially like, there were a couple of chefs that I went in the kitchen with, or even like, Layla Gohar, who's like just so talented. Like, I was just like, do you want to like play with vegetables together and create like a rainbow? And like, I don't know. It's funny because, for a very long time, I was pretty insecure and I didn't hold myself with a lot of confidence. But for some reason, I was like, I'm going for it. I'm going to just like, so I digress a little bit. The long and short of it is community. Like, I really asked people to teach me, like, can you teach me how to like, food style a little bit more? And I started to learn, it's so funny, when I talk about design, I often say, and like I talk about styling a vignette, like I often say like, I love to create symmetry and then I love to break it, but I like to start with the symmetry. And I realized the other day that philosophy that led its way into design, it actually started with food styling. Like, you don't want anything to look so perfect always. And I think the same could be said about design, right? You don't want everything to be so formulaic. And I think that as designers, it's very easy to like always put things a certain way and style things a certain way. And, so I would always make sure that whatever I did, I would then go and break it intentionally. And I think that, I don't know. Am I answering your question?
Well, yes. I mean, and this was your fabulous kitchen where you did a lot of content that you created there, and a lot of people came to know you and the cooking and the entertaining, and in what turns out to be house number 10. But I want to understand better
the how.
Yeah, because I mean, there were various moments where, to your point, different groups discovered you.
Yes.
Right, and your cooking book became this huge sensation when it came out, and you had this big following, and then design, as you say, came a little bit later. But everybody was enthralled with your home and your whole sort of persona. So, I mean, when did that first? I was remembering you telling me recently about going into
for the publisher.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I also want to share, like, this is going to sound so hokey, but I'm going to say it anyway. I really do believe in like the power of manifestation. And there was a girl that was kind of doing what I wanted to do, but more in like the fashion side. And she had like a manager and she was working with brands. And I was just like, I want to do that, but I want to do it with like food and design. And I just remember like asking her, how do you make money and how do you monetize it? And so, she told me that she had a manager and she was working on a book. And I feel like I have a hunger in me. Like I'm not going to take things at face value. I constantly want more. I'm really tired. But like when I see what somebody else is doing that inspires me or intrigues me, and I think that I have an entrepreneurial spirit, and I want to understand it and I want to know it, and I ask a lot of questions. And so anyway, through this girl, and she got me a meeting with a publisher, because I was obsessed with cooking. Like I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and there were all these incredible Brooklyn restaurants. There was one called Franny's in particular, that like I would eat at the restaurant and I would like run home so inspired, pick up the ingredients and to like try to recreate the dish the next day. And like that was another form of self-education, I guess, like trusting my palate and learning cooking techniques. I did go to culinary school after. But again,
So she
I didn't have
jumped
a
around
degree.
a bit. Again, this is, you know.
A lot of schools, guys, a lot of schools. So anyway, I went in to see the publisher. It was clear to me the second I walked in, I was gonna say she didn't know who I was, but she shouldn't know who I was. Like, I didn't have a big following on Instagram at the time, but like I was cooking regularly, and in my mind, I was like deep in this culinary space, but clearly to this publisher, she was like, she literally said to me, she said to me, why would anyone buy a book from you? What, like, who are you? You don't have a restaurant, you aren't a chef, like, you don't have a following, like, what's so special about you? And it was like, she wasn't trying to like get me to think, she was really being mean. Like, she was just so
It wasn't supposed to be inspiring, more like soul crushing.
Soul crushing, like literally soul crushing. Like I walked out, I was shaking, I was like tearing up. And I definitely was like, what am I doing? Like, what, she's right. Like, why would anybody want to buy a book from me? And, oh, I forgot to say, the reason I brought up Franny's is because she did Franny's cookbook. So I was just like obsessed with Franny's at the time. So I just like went for it. And I walked out of there and I remember going home and sitting down and like literally doing a writing exercise to try to figure out, well, what is unique about me? Like, what do I have to say that a chef or a restaurateur has to say, or how can I set myself apart? And I think that that's probably the greatest thing that I might be able to share tonight is like, what is really special about you? Like, you know, what can you offer? And like that was, I decided that day that like I am straddling food and design, and most chefs aren't straddling design, and most designers aren't straddling food. So I'm gonna lean into that because that is what is unique about me. And I'm not saying I'm not the first person to do that. Obviously, Martha Stewart is like the queen, and you know, she led the charge.
She seems to have done terribly well.
I have the best Martha Stewart story, but maybe not appropriate right now.
Afterwards, we'll tell the Martha Stewart story.
Can I tell that story?
Go for it. Aren't you glad you stayed?
So anyway, my cookbook was about...
We'll come back to Martha.
No, I'll tell the story, but
Okay.
I feel like I don't want to derail things.
No, listen, I'm happy to go wherever you want to go. I mean, the audience is here for you.
Okay, we're going to come back to Martha.
Okay.
We'll come back to Martha. Anyway, my cookbook ended up being about sharing the tips and the tricks on how to elevate the presentation of your food. Because that's what I did. I set a scene. I built a world. It was touching design. It was touching food. It was touching flavor. And I started to realize, and maybe I think this is, you said, how did I get here? Because my design book was very similar. I think that because I am always wanting to learn and absorb and grow more and understand more, I'm constantly self-educating. But then there's also this part of me, it's almost like a cyclical thing. Like I want to learn, but then I want to push it back out. Like I'm a sharer. I love to share. I won't call myself a teacher because I'm not a teacher, but like whenever I learn something, I get really excited and I want to push it back out there. Like I was that kid that would like read something and I wouldn't just like read a book and then I wouldn't just want to like read it because I loved it. I had to go like tell somebody else about it. Like I like to share. And that's what EyeSwoon allowed me to do, and that's what the books allowed me to do. And the cookbook, you know, because of this woman who was so mean, it ended up earning a James Beard Award and, you know, for photography. And it was the first time that I'd ever worked with professional photographers and I ever hired a stylist rather than me styling myself. And that was like my big girl, like that was like my first like stepping into like working with a proper team and almost being like an art director and a creative director. But then not jump back, but fast forward to the design book. That's also like at the epicenter of what the design book is, because sure, we all can see and love and appreciate beautiful design, but what I wanted to do was take a beautiful photograph and unpack it for the reader. Like, you know, what are the principles at play in this room? Why does it succeed? And I loved writing my design book so much, way more than the cookbook. It flowed out of me because I'm such a visual person, and I'm also such a curious person. And I would go to each of these designers and I would say to them, like, all right, what was the first point of inspiration in this room? And I don't know if you guys all feel about the same about this than I do, but I always remember the first piece that led the design journey of a space that I've designed. Because you buy one thing, you know, you don't design a room all at once. I mean, and I think when you do, it's not always successful. It's like it's like these building blocks, right? You find the first piece and it leads you on your journey. And when I photographed, you know, Nate Berkus and Robin Sandifar, like, and, you know, all these other designers, I would ask them as we walked through the space and as we were photographing, like, how the design unraveled, and like, what was the first point of inspiration, what surprised you, and how did it pivot? And I think it's really important to like understand a designer's mind. At least I find it fascinating. But that's what I did for Live Beautiful. I would share these, like I would distill what it was about a room that was working. And I think that the reader, and the book ended up selling 375,000 copies, which is, I didn't really realize it, but
yeah.
It's a lot of copies of books.
Yeah, and to put that in perspective, Rebecca, what do you think the average design book sells from a big designer, roughly?
It's like 10,000.
10,000, yeah. That's a usual number for a design book. So hers sold, a little bit more, 375,000.
I mean, it was right. I thought that the book was going to flop because we had the launch for it, and I was supposed to go on a book tour like 3 days before COVID hit. And I think it was really lucky timing because everybody was home and everybody was needing inspiration for their home. And my publisher, the one that actually wanted to do a book with me, they wanted like a how-to book, and I wanted a coffee table book. And I felt like by making these beautiful images of high luxury design, but then distilling down the principles at play, I was making the book educational and accessible and not just like pretty to look at, but you can actually like take away something. And I think that as a whole, that's, I think, a philosophy that I think it's really important to share and to not gatekeep. And there's a lot of designers that don't like that I share my creative process and my resources. But if every single one of us in the room had the same 5 pieces of furniture, we would all design the room completely different. We would pair it with different things. We would paint the walls and use different wall finishes and clad the walls differently. Or, I think that there's too much fear around keeping, your proprietary information yours. I feel that way. I'm not judging any other designer that wants to keep things private, but I think that the way that I have grown on social media and also the books was because of that level of sharing. And
you're right that for many it was a little unsettling, unnerving. You seem to unsettle people for any number of reasons, Athena. I don't know what that's about. But it was a transition that the industry had to make, and social media in part thrust this upon a great many people, because all of you have gone and looked at a beautiful image on social media and then seen an array of comments underneath. Oh, what's that paint color? Where's that sofa from? And not everyone felt comfortable about sharing that. Some people felt, to your point, very proprietary and felt like, well, this is top secrets. But you weren't that way, and you shared a great deal, and you brought so much of the community in, and then this vast community followed you in and came along for the ride and wanted to, so much so that they all wanted to come and see you tonight, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
And I am still trying to understand all of it.
Yeah.
What you have
Me
tapped
too.
into, right? Because I mean, and this beautiful home in Brooklyn, which I'm so sad that is no longer your home, and I hope the person that bought it is going to be terribly happy, and I hope they will make it as nice as you did. But seeing that home and yeah, I mean, really, look at it, right? I mean, who doesn't?
It was really, really a special place.
Yeah.
And I know that I've said I've had 10, well, you know what? Can I borrow the business of home? Because I feel like
Hey.
I'm the business of home.
You know, well, now tell me more. Tell me about this arrangement that you want to make. Because I'm a little proprietary here, but you know.
Share, Dennis.
Okay.
I feel like I've made my homes my business. And up until a year and a half ago, I hadn't started my own firm and took on other clients. But it was my own homes. And maybe that's what helped kind of guide and refine my eye, is that every time I would design one of my new homes, and it wasn't like we're like accumulating homes. We would sell one before we bought the other one.
She has all 10 at once, you know. Yeah.
But I would always learn something new. I would always pick a different style, and I would always challenge myself to explore that and educate myself surrounding that. So I feel like with every home, my taste level expanded. And then, you know, by the time this home, you know, or the Brooklyn home, it was like an accumulation. Just like I became this accumulation of all these things that I started and stopped that I thought I was wasting my time. My homes have also each kind of led me to where I am and given me more confidence. And I also think that, you know, because it was for me, yes, there was still pressure there, but like I was able to take risks.
Well, and did you, we've been talking a lot recently about how designers think about their own homes to that point. Do you view it as a laboratory? Do you view it as a place of experiment? It sounds like you're finding yourself in a lot of it as well. Yes?
Yeah, I'm definitely finding myself. I'm definitely challenging myself. I'm definitely intentionally putting myself in a place of uncomfortability to see what can be born from there. I never want to be complacent. And I think that, you know, while I very much still struggle that I don't have what you all have, I am really proud that I'm allowing design to touch my life in so many different ways. You know, whether that is designing a meal or designing a tablescape or designing an event, or, you know, working for brands, styling an event, or whether it's product design. Like oftentimes I knew nothing about it and I just threw myself into it. And I think that my homes have always been my laboratory, and they've always been where I've self-educated and I felt safe to try things.
Yeah. And this is the home in Amagansett.
Yes. This was a photo shoot for my second furniture collection with Crate and Barrel.
So let's tell people quickly how that came about, because that was a pretty big deal.
Yes. So the only way that I have grown a business is through brand partnerships. I don't work for, up until a year and a half ago, I haven't worked for clients, and I work with brands. So I love to build long-term relationships. Like my very first employee ever at EyeSwoon is still my employee 11 years later. I've been married for 25 years. Like I like to build long, like confident, like beautifully symbiotic relationships. And I started to build a relationship through content creation with Crate and Barrel. And I would, whenever the holidays would come around, I would, design a holiday space and a tree, or I would do, share recipes with them. So the way that my business really kind of took off was through working with brands. So like I've worked with Tiffany before, and Chanel, and Audi, and Crate and Barrel was one of those brands. I don't know why I'm blanking on some of the other ones, but I've
Pretty
worked
good list
a lot
so
with,
far. Yeah.
and just since we're on the brand alignment too, I struggled when I started to work and align with brands because I wanted to make sure, who has the money are like fashion brands or liquor brands or jewelry companies. And I'm like, but wait a minute, I'm food and design. Like, how do I make that make sense? But if I can tell a story and a narrative of something that feels authentic to me, that I can weave into my world of design and my world of food, then it makes sense because it needs to be authentic. Like, I don't want it. So I guess I started to work a lot with fashion brands and, designing and styling a space for them, or cooking a recipe, wearing their clothes. So I think it's important for me to be transparent and sharing how I have a 5-person team now, and it's through those brand alignments.
Yeah, and that was how a lot of people discovered you, right? And
well, also I'm getting to use their platform as well as my platform, and it expands, the reach.
yeah, no, absolutely. And and here's another fabulous kitchen. And in taking advantage of those platforms and with those brand partnerships and developing that relationship with Crate and Barrel, when did it go
Oh, right.
from...
Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. Did you notice how you didn't answer the question? Actually, yes. We'll bring you back, though. Don't worry. We got you.
Sorry.
We got you. So take us back to Crate and Barrel and that great relationship.
Well, it's going to take us right back to manifestation.
Well, I knew you were going to bring manifestation back into this. How many people believe in manifestation in the room? Can we say? Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
You could also call it manipulation.
Okay. Manifestation sounds nicer, though, somehow, right? Yeah.
Setting an intention.
Yes.
But the goal for me was always product, and I always wanted to design product.
Right.
And I didn't know how, but I was building this relationship with Crate and Barrel, and I would keep, actually it was CB2 at first that I was talking with them about doing a collection, and it never happened. It fell apart. And I was really upset about it, but I also, at the time, nobody could have told me that it was the right move, but working with Crate and Barrel has been one of the most incredible experiences of my career because it allowed me to touch another part of design that I had not touched before, which was product. And because I'm not technical, and because I don't know CAD or Rhino or all these programs that you guys, SketchUp, all these programs that you guys know, if I wanted to do product design, I did need to lean on another brand that had that skill set and had the team, the design team. And they did. And it started with just me. It was actually initially about, it was meant to be 2 separate collections. They knew that I touched culinary, and then they knew I touched design. So it was meant to be decorative objects and dinnerware and glassware and at first. And then it was meant to be followed up by a furniture collection. And as I started to ideate and think and put a deck together and pull all my inspiration together, I was like, but wait a minute. I'm going to have all these beautiful decorative objects, and I'm going to have all this gorgeous dinnerware and serveware, but I'm going to style it on somebody else's table? That makes no sense. So I went back to them, and I was like, hear me out. Can we push this out another year? Because at first, my manager went to them and said, we want to combine them together. And they said, we just don't have the runway to do that. So I went to the creative director there and I said, I know this sounds crazy, and like I know that, you know, putting things off like another year or a year and a half is not ideal for anyone, but I'd really love to just do it all together. So we ended up they saw the value in that, and we ended up launching a 140 piece collection that was touched every facet of the home. It was lighting, decor, tabletop, and furniture. And it was so inspiring. It was really an amazing experience. And again, like I didn't know the process, and it was amazing to like see the sampling and understand the manufacturing, and, you know, sit there with their team and, you know, use, you know, iPad and just like, you know, trace along to like change the arm profile that wasn't quite right. And just like this iterative process and collaboration is something that I hold so dear to me. Like I love to learn more from other people that know more from me. And I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And working with them was just such a dream. And I learned so much. And the collection, the collection reached its 1 year mark within 3 or 4 weeks.
Blew out the door. And in part, if I recall, and I think I came to visit you in Brooklyn when
You
right?
did.
So you beautifully styled the collection at your...
Oh, yeah, I wanted to share that because I see a lot of friends and designers and they launch collections, and I don't know if I'm crazy or if I just can't help myself, but I always like to go the extra mile, even if it's super inconvenient for me. My husband was like, are you crazy? You're gonna empty our entire townhouse and put your whole collection into the house? And I was like, yeah, and it was like...
Nuts.
It was nuts. It really was nuts. I mean, we had to like shut down the block and moving vans and like,
Crazy.
it was, but like...
But I mean...
I knew
amazing.
that it would help sell the collection for people to see it in my home.
Yes.
So I guess like the point is like how, I don't know if I go overboard, but like I throw myself into my work and I make my work my life, and it's work for me. It's been successful, and you know, I've shot my cookbook and the design book in my own homes. I brought the furniture's collection into my homes, and I think that because my brand is so synonymous with my life, that's what people want from me, and I love it. So I'm a business of home.
You can't have that, okay? You cannot have that. But one of the things that you touched on is that so many people were coming to you.
Yes.
So
After my townhouse was in Architectural Digest, and then it was on the cover of a couple of European magazines, and then after the design book came out, I did start getting a lot of inbound for doing interior design work. And it's like, I wanted to do it, but I didn't have the team to do it, and I kept just saying no to these projects, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, why am I saying no? But they were big budget projects, and I knew I didn't have the infrastructure, I didn't have the skill set. I had the eye, but I didn't have all the other pieces, and so I would just say no. And then this project, which is in Watch Hill, Rhode Island, right next to Taylor Swift's house, it was brought to me, and I was just like, this one is too special. So I went to, again, my community, and I went and I asked for help. And I went to my best friend, Jeremiah Brent, and I said, do you want to do this together? And he was like, absolutely. So we collaborated together on this project, and it was also featured in AD, and the clients were incredible, and I learned so much from Jeremiah and his team, and it was amazing.
It's a really spectacular project. And you mentioned rugs earlier, and this is a beautiful collection for many rugs that you
This was
developed.
So because I love photography and travel so much, when I have the opportunity, both with my Crate and Barrel shoot as well as with the Benny shoot, I also I'm a little psycho, a little bit, but like
but in the best way.
But like I will spend like days, weeks, like scouring, like to find the perfect location. Like you know, the reason I'm sharing this is not to be like, oh, woe is me, like I'm so special, like I go the extra mile, but I do, and I think it's really important. And we wanted to shoot in this Art Deco home in Paris, and we just couldn't find the right one. And rather than letting, the PR agencies and, the location agencies find the location, I found the location. And like, I just throw myself into what I do, and I love that.
Yeah.
And this was the dreamiest apartment.
I'll say.
His name is Augustus Perret, and this was a building in Paris. He designed the entire building. This was his actual apartment, and it was unbelievable, the way the wood and the concrete and the metal brass detailing on the ceiling. It was just really special. And working with Benny Ruggs was really incredible, because I was doing the big box brand with Crate and Barrel, but I also wanted to do something that was like really artisanal and really kind of rooted in craft. Benny employs all these incredible women weavers in Marrakesh, and it was just really important for me to also not just do the big manufacturer, but also like really be involved in something that feels artisanal. So this is my second collection with Benny Ruggs, and I ended up taking inspiration very much from the Art Deco period, and I traveled to Vienna and Paris and Copenhagen to take inspiration, and most of these rugs are all inspired by either floor patterns in the mosaics or from architectural details of, iconic, like the Opera House in Paris. And, I think it's so important to just always have your eyes open and absorb everything, and not always know where that might land. But I really believe that we all have these little drawers in our mind, and you just soak up and you absorb and you see so much, and then one day the drawer flies open and an idea comes out, and that's why it's so important to educate your eye and go to museums and all the things that I feel like brought me to me.
Yeah, well, exactly. Now, there you are, Karen. I knew you would be there. So here's the thing, folks. I actually have to dash soon, sadly. As much as I would love to linger and languish and just talk with Athena all night long, I have to change into a different outfit and appear at something else. So what we're going to do is we're going to open it up for questions, because I want all of you to get to ask a bunch of questions before this evening wraps up. And Karen and Olivia are going to come around. And so I'm jumping ahead, and let's just jump into the first question. Show of hands. Yes. All right.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable with your story. I think it really resonated with me, especially.
Oh, well, good.
I have a multidisciplinary designer that, I weave in between wellness and hospitality and design. And my question is, I think you've done such an amazing job establishing your brand and your voice, and everything looks incredible always.
Thank you.
Everything I cook from your book turns out amazing always.
Thank you.
But I feel like now it's really hard with trying to grow your brand when you do many things, because it's like, welcome to my episode on this, right? And like, welcome to my series, and we're going to talk about this one thing. So like,
Yeah.
do you have advice on that now? I mean, it's changed so much, but like...
It's interesting, because a few years ago I probably would have just said, no, like you can do it all, and you can be it all, and you can be a part of it all, and share multiple sides of yourself. And I do still, at my heart of hearts, believe that's who I will always be, and I think you have to always be who you are, truthfully. I think that's the only way to find success. But even I've lately been like, if I want to succeed at design, I think I need to focus more on design. I think that you should always foster all those parts of yourself that fire you up, because that's what makes you unique and yourself. But I think there might need to be one, like, I remember at one point I had a manager, and they were like, okay, fine, if you want to be food and design, great, but like stop the fashion. I think you might need to maybe focus one perhaps a little bit more, but still honor all the bits of you. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think, sorry, one other thing. I think if you can remain consistent and find the thread that ties them all together, I think it'll always make sense. Because the way I dress and the way I design a room and the way I cook, I can see similarities throughout all of them, like engaging contrasts and polarization. And like, I think you have to really find, you should have that publisher that says to you, like, what's special about you. Honor yourself, but don't spread yourself so thin that you don't have a focus. You're welcome.
Okay.
Hi. Over here.
Oh, hi.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm so excited to be here. I have been following you for so many years, and
Thank you.
you are the reason I am in this school and
Oh my
doing.
goodness.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you.
So my question is, I have two questions for you, but I kind of would like to fangirl a little bit before. You know, you're so influential in design, and you are the reason why no one in this country has upper cabinets anymore.
I agree.
And everything that, you know, you put out, like, everyone is going to follow. That's going to be the trend next year, whatever you decide to put out. And
Wow.
like, it's true. Whatever is on EyeSwoon, you'll see in a year, like, that trend is picked up everywhere. I mean, that's what I've noticed, at least. And how do you keep coming up with so many, like, fresh new ideas? Because when I look at your eye, like, I think you have one of the greatest eyes of our generation. Wow. And
Thank you.
when I look at, you know, your work, I'm just, like, amazed. I'm like, how does she keep making new things?
Yeah.
You know, it's not derivative. You're leading. So how do you keep doing that?
Thank you.
And my second question is, would you ever consider bringing on an intern from NYSID?
And cutting to the chase, is there a position available within the? Okay.
I like it.
Good. Good stuff.
I think that, first of all, thank you, and yes. I don't think that I start trends. I think I think that I put myself in the center of it all. I make sure that I'm seeing it all. And I think I'm really good at synthesizing what I'm seeing out there and packaging it and pushing it out. I think if I would have had a clearer path, I probably would have been an editor. Like, I think I'm a good editor. I think I can, like, see when, you know, glass is trending in Milan, and I used to hate glass anything, and then I would, like, see it for 2 years at Salone, and I would be like, okay, maybe. I don't know how I bought an apartment that was all wood, and now all wood apartments are just like
Yeah, let's show that real quick. That apartment that's all wood.
I think that
This is the apartment that she bought in Tribeca.
I think that yeah, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I like to put myself in a place of uncomfortability, and I know I said that before, but, like, I sold that townhouse, which was perfect. Everything about it.
Perfect.
The location.
Can I tell you how I wept when that house was sold? Can I tell you how emotional that was for me? Didn't even consult me on the whole thing. Didn't care about my feelings, about how I was going to be. Go on.
But I knew that I needed a new creative canvas. I knew that I needed to be inspired differently. And it's probably because I use my homes for my work that, you know, it just was, I'm not saying that, you know, you just are flippant with your homes and sell your home because it's been photographed too much. But for me, it was when an entire building in Williamsburg had my kitchen, like everything, like the hood, the stone, the knobs, you know, I was just like, okay. Yeah. I need to figure out what's next for me. So I think, like, I'm not afraid to take a risk and to put myself in a, you know, I'm definitely, the design for this kitchen, I'm in it right now. And I'm really trying to come up with new ways to see a kitchen and enclose a kitchen, and materials for the kitchen island that haven't typically been seen in many years. So I think that I'm not saying that I'm coming up with something so original, but I feel like I'm seeing palettes and materials, and I'm looking back at historical references and trying to bring that forward.
Okay, over here.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Are you going to Salonia next week?
Tomorrow.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I'm part of the Poro team in the design district.
Amazing.
So if you're going to do closets, do it with me.
Okay, for sure.
Okay.
I want to share a little story that I came across with a friend.
Quick story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing the process of moving out of your house. That was amazing.
Thank you.
And I told my friend, I was like, did you see the whole process of how she shared how she moved out of the house? And she was like, what I really want to know is how much was the house? I was like, no.
How much?
How much was the house?
How much it cost?
I'm not asking that. It was her who said
It's public knowledge.
Yeah. But my question is, would you consider going back to school?
I have thought about going back to school, and I've talked about it a lot because I do still feel like I have a handicap. I need somebody to help get what's in my head onto paper. And I think that I've come a long way and I've figured out how to get my ideas across, but I do have to rely on other people. I go back and forth. I know that if I put the time in and I have this skill set that I've never had before, I think sky's the limit of like how much that can help my creative process. But then on the other side, I feel like maybe there are other people that have that talent, and maybe, I don't know, it's hard because I beat myself up a lot still to this day about not having the skill set. I really do. But I also feel like maybe that's just not where my time is best well spent.
Well, we have a distance program, just saying. You can do it online.
Good point, Karen. So let's tell people really quickly, though. So what you are.
Oh yeah,
going to
so
be.
I have launched my design studio, and I have 2 full-time designers, 1 architect and 1 senior designer. I knew I had to hire a senior designer and not a junior designer because I've never had my own studio and I needed somebody that had the expertise. And then this is my new design studio. This is a rendering. It's in Tribeca, but I've never had a physical space beside my own homes where I can cook and I can entertain and I can host dinners, but also where me and my design team and the EyeSwoon team can work together. So I'm also working on my own furniture collection and my own lighting collection, which I'm really
Which are
excited.
just teasing you with some images.
It's a tease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And maybe you've got a new intern. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, no promises.
And I'm about to launch a jewelry collection, which you guys are the first people to see it.
So there's that as well.
We did the photo shoot today, and it was so I'm wearing it still. So anyway, nobody's seen it, but you.
Over here, there's a.
Hi.
So I've been in design for about 10 years. I just recently started real estate, and I've noticed I get creatively drained doing the both. How do you hold it all together? And when you get in a creative stump, how do you reboot out of it?
Such a good question. I feel you. It can be really exhausting, but it's also something that I love. Like sometimes I get really proud when I can accomplish a lot, and then I'm like, no, this isn't normal. You shouldn't be able to like do this much in a day. I try to really take a pause, and I mean, right now I'm living close to nature, and I'll take a beach walk, or I'll play with my puppy, who's actually a dog. He's not a puppy. I don't know why I said that. It's hard. It's really hard to create the pause. But I do think that, I mean, one thing that I do that I'm trying to do now is like Zooms are killing me. Like you can't be creative when you're like constantly jumping from like call to call. So I've really tried to like block out like creative days and then just really take a breather. And weekends, I say this, but it's been a while now, but like, when I was a young mom and I didn't have career, which really, really was until I was in my mid-30s, the weekends and the weekdays would all blur together. But now the weekends I hold so sacred. Like, I am not working at all. And I am, just allowing my brain to recalibrate. But it's hard.
One last question.
Okay, so one last person who's dying to ask a question. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm very excited to be here. I've been following you for years.
you.
I come from a 15-year career in fashion design, and I've recently left my job and doing interior design full time.
Wow,
And
congratulations.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Wow.
I have major imposter syndrome. I had been doing it on the side for years, and it had gotten to a point where I was just ready to try it full time. I'm also in my later 30s with 2 kids, and yeah, so it's a lot. And I guess what inspires me so much about you is how I know that you've had this imposter syndrome, but you just like take it and run with it, and you just keep creating and like sort of let all the voices go to the side and kind of prove them wrong. Yeah. And so what I really would love to know is like, what advice do you have to take what I have that's different from everybody else, which is fashion, and all the technical skills that are very similar, honestly, and take it and use it to my advantage and build my business with what makes me different and me special, and what's your advice for really like showing that to the rest of the world?
Well, it's incredible that you're making this very brave pivot, and congratulations. I think that, I used social media as the voice to help bring my point of view. So it's the only thing that I can share, that, figure out your story and your narrative, and like how you can find a way to either visually show that or verbally show that. Whether, it's hard for me because I had a very unique platform when Instagram was just building, that I started to kind of like share my voice and my point of view. But I think that the assets that the creative like skill set and assets that you have from fashion obviously are going to kind of give you a different point of view. So however you can share that, whether it's in the materials that you present or the colors or the technical or the language that you use, I think just, flex a little bit. Like lean into, like, go after your Jean-Georges when you're just like a girl from Long Island who likes to cook.
Well, and that, in thinking about all of this, you've been so great at getting your foot in the door, right? You've been so, I don't know if the word is fearless, you tell me, but you've put yourself out there time and time again. When horrible publishers told you, who the heck were you to come in and think that you were going to sell books or break through in any of these industries that are so challenging?
I still think I'm like a fluke and like imposter syndrome. Like,
and yet, how many years have you been following her, right? Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Just the other day I was with Gabriel from Apparatus, and he said something to me. He was just like, yeah, it's just like his brother lost his home in the wildfires in LA, and he was using, for the first time, he was using Crate and Barrel and living spaces and accessible furniture, and he suddenly had this appreciation for it, and he was like, yeah, because remember, girl, when you launched that collection, it was like, it really like shook waves through the design community. Like, it was really a bold move and very controversial. I was like, what?
You're like, what?
Was it?
Yeah.
I
I know. Well, you see, because I think someone mentioned it earlier and it came up in conversation, but that whole notion of the gatekeepers, Athena, apparently there are these gatekeepers and they want to keep you out somehow. I don't really get it. But
I don't know. Maybe I'm better. Maybe I'm more driven if I'm out.
Maybe. I don't know. Being an outsider, kind of coming in. I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But
Honestly,
I mean, people.
I've always had like a foot in and out the door.
Yeah.
Like, I've always have been a little.
Yeah. Well, it keeps you on your toes, I guess. Yeah. So that's good. But as I said at the very beginning of this conversation, one of the things that is so inspiring to me about Athena is how fearless she has been. And one of the things that I admire so much about the sophisticated restraint, I think you and I talked about at one point, that she brings to everything that she does, and is part of what makes it stand out. And as some of the questions were alluding to, this ability of yours to process all of the things that you're seeing around the world, and then bringing them into the culture, and as people were saying, and then they're going to show up, everyone's going to love it. I mean, imagine there's a whole building that's your kitchen that you've done. What? Like, that's crazy. But people wanted to recreate that look and that style, and that's the power and the influence that you have. So I'm sorry that there are these gatekeepers that seem unnerved in some way by what you bring to the industry, but I'm thrilled that you've got a firm. I'm thrilled you've got a new intern, and and it sounds like there's all these projects that are just waiting to happen for you. So I'm thrilled about that. You're so generous to come and talk with us. Everyone obviously thrilled to be here. Will you please join me in thanking Athena Calderone?
Thank you, Dennis.
And I want to thank all of you for supporting.